Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Magnetic Intrusion titled The American Saint. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube, and we're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go. I like that guitar tone now. Interesting bass tone as well. Kind of cool to hear the guitar screaming out at the start.
Speaking truth that put hearts to the test. The weight of the times on his hands. Yet he stands for the soul of the land. American saints.
I mean, it's a catchy vocal harmony for sure.
Holding the torch, keeping faith in the light. American saint, unafraid of the night. With truth as his weapon, he stands for the fight.
I just want to pause for a second there just to sort of talk about something really quickly, and I'll try not to pause too much. I want to talk about the drum positioning, the panning, and the stereo field. It seems like the drums are quite close to the center. I'm not sure if it's something that I may be sort of misinterpreting. We'll continue listening through it. It just seems there's a lot of the drums focused in the center of the stereo field at this point. I mean, the snare and kicks make sense, but
Raise up the flag, let the thunder proclaim the faith of the few can ignite the
fun tremolo tricks.
guiding the lost with a compass of steel. He dares to believe, he dares to reveal. No will can bend, no force can restrain, because freedom runs deep in his veins. American saints standing tall in the fight, holding the torch, keeping faith in the light. American saint, unafraid of the night. With truth as his weapon, he stands. American saint, standing tall in the fight, holding the torch, keeping faith in the light. American saint, unafraid of the night. With truth as his weapon, he stands for the fight.
Great re-entry into a lead section.
Stand up, hold the line, stand strong. This is our time. One voice, one fate, led by the American saint.
Very somber ending to that one. You're welcome. Thank you for the video. Just reading the little thing on the screen there. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Magnetic Intrusion titled The American Saint. Now, first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think this is about people of faith and religion in America feeling, wanting to have strength in their faith and holding on to that, and that light helping them get through the night and holding on to truth and everything. I think it's a thing that will resonate with a lot of people who feel similarly to that. I think just, with the lyrics that we heard in the story I was being told, it's a beautiful thing. Like, genuinely, I think it's a great message there to hold on to your belief system and for it to kind of help you get through the difficult times. It's cool. So yeah, there will definitely be an audience for this. In terms of things that I appreciated about this track, one of the things were the vocal melodies and harmonies. So I think that the way that they carried those sort of main lines was effective primarily because of the change in the intensity of the dynamics of the performance there. We were a bit more gentle in some of the verse parts, and we came up for the choruses. And it's kind of like a fundamental thing with music nowadays, is you want to have that, but you just can't take for granted that people will understand to do that. So a little bits of vibrato and some held notes occasionally, whilst not. Also, we don't need to have constant storytelling either in a track. We can allow that to be ranged, with this track being 4 minutes 12, to have other lead sections, which there are a few. We'll talk about those in a moment, but just ultimately, I think that in general, it was just great to have the story told in a compelling way that elevated the performance. It was an icing on the cake of everything else. Because I sort of want to talk about the way that the guitars were played. I think that the instrumental parts in general were fantastic. I did like what was going on with the various sort of like bass and drum parts, for example. Some of the fills they were doing on the toms were great. We had a steady sort of groove with the hi-hats, kicks, and snares otherwise. And we had dynamic range with the kicks, with this drum kit as well. But the guitar parts, especially for me, like the very kind of almost sort of not chorusy necessarily, just the kind of reverb or the kind of treatment that we're putting on that initial sort of like cleaner guitar line at start was just wonderful. And for that to kind of lead into that kind of really gritty bass tone there is just a really interesting design choice. It kind of piques your curiosity within the first 10 seconds of the track and kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen next. For it to go into like a full sort of like band after that is fantastic. We just had so much variety in that short term, and it shows that we aren't taking the listener's attention for granted. And so throughout the track, we go between those picked arpeggiated or kind of like melodic elements of the cleaner guitars, and then we have the distorted, heavier rhythm parts for the choruses, and then other parts and like transfers, and then we also have our lead sections, where we explore the mid to upper range really eloquently. There are several different lead guitar sections, with the main one especially just having wonderful phrasing. And I'm not saying that because I feel the need to be nice. It's just that we have a clear understanding of how to segment a lead section into different ideas and have them transfer between one another. It's not just a consistent rhythm kind of melodically with the same scale. We are a bit more sort of like cautious about how we do things, with very sort of like tremolo picks, doing some sort of dive bombs and sort of like pulling it back up. Other parts are a little bit more sort of like what a vocalist would be singing, and other parts just like really quick shred, just kind of these ascending kind of passages there that are really they're technically very difficult to do, but they're not an all the time thing, and I think that makes them more impactful. There's this kind of consistent eighth note groove throughout a lot of the song, rhythmically, and when you get to that solo section, to have it contrast with 16ths and navys for like 30 seconds in certain parts is just really clever, because a song's like a big puzzle and the pieces don't all need to be the same. And I think also the bends and the bits of vibrato we have kind of meet some of the vibrato from the vocal takes as well, so there's some sort of connections in regards to the affectation of them between different lead parts. So ultimately, I feel like the guitar parts personally instrumentally were the highlight for me, and I just think we had several key chord progressions and bass lines that were distinctive. I just think we had several key chord progressions and bass lines that were distinctive, transferred neatly, And we even sort of like had a double chorus near the end, which was unexpected to lead into that outro there. So as I said before, we weren't taking the listener's attention for granted. I think I also want to talk about the studio production as the final thing. Now, I do want to comment on the drum parts, specifically the way the drums were positioned within the stereo field. I'm not necessarily fully convinced about the hi-hat position. I'm not sure if that needed to be in the center of the stereo field alongside the guitar and drums. As I understand it, usually you'd have that a bit more to the side, either like from the position of a live view of a kit or from the studio view of the kit, like behind the drum kit itself. But it's just simply because there was quite a bit going on in the center at one point where I was like distracted a little bit, like the hi-hats. But that's just me sort of being transparent there. It's a very minor thing when you consider that literally everything else sounded pretty well rounded for me. I did like how expansive it became when those side guitars came in at the start there. We had a lot of space there, and even though again there could have been some more stereo width with like some of the drum parts and everything like that, it's okay to not have everything completely blasted to the side 100% left and right, or even further with the kind of fancy plugins we have nowadays. I think in general the leveling was really good. I feel like there were no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. There was dynamic range to this as well, both in terms of the layering of the composition, but also the track itself. And I just appreciate that it was nice and loud with that pump because of the bus compression and limiting was handled. Ultimately, I just feel that this was a really well-rounded track, a really fantastic first impression to Magnetic Intrusion's work with the American Saint. And thank you very much for watching my review of this track. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.